And welcome in tonight, everybody, to the UKL promotion series from Div 2 to Div 1. I am joined tonight by Recollect. Hey, buddy, how's it going? Welcome in. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's a little bit of a call to arms, should we say, this evening for me. So we're a little bit rushed into it, but we will do our best to give you guys some quality content for this evening. On the subject of quality content, I'm looking forward to the quality matchup we've got tonight here going on. Should be an exciting one here in our promotion relegation battle.
For sure. I mean, we have RIZE on the one side, the Div 2 underdog team this split, playing all the way through the lower bracket, all the way up against Broad and Friends, previously in Div 2, now in Div 1. Had a bit of a struggle, but from a look of it, they actually weren't that bad when all things considered in Div 1, and now they're in this. So, yeah, should be a good series for sure.
It was interesting when I was researching these teams because I was looking at it and I was like, oh, they came last. They must have been a terrible team. They actually weren't that bad, in all fairness. They finished with a 3-5 record, but when you look at who they actually lost to, they were 0-2 against Verdant, I believe, and went 1-1 against everyone else. So not necessarily a terrible team, just a team that couldn't quite get themselves a 2-0 week, and that means that, unfortunately, when you're in such a packed field as you have here in the UKEL, you end up dropping down despite having a decent set of results against your other sides. So it'll be interesting to see if they actually are just an average Div 1 team, or how they can actually pair up against a Div 2 team that I've heard some rumors, shall we say, that they might be packing some firepower coming into this matchup.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, when we're looking at the Broad and Friends roster right now, I think, well, let's go back a step. RIZE already played against DMG, right? They beat them 2-1 after dropping the first game, coming back next two. So that's their first teaser of a Div 1 team, which, took them to a 2-1 series. Broad and Friends played against 200 Bandits. They beat them 2-0. Quick sweep, just easy peasy does it, lemon squeezy kind of thing. So this is a good test for RIZE to see, okay, now we're against a bit of a slightly better team. How's tonight going to go? Because once you promote from Div 2 to Div 1, you're going to be playing against better teams more consistently. So you need to see if you can reach their standard. So that's what I'm going to look for RIZE. RIZE, they look good in Div 2. Don't get me wrong. They got second place, right? They played in the final and they brought it to 5 games. But tonight is really going to show what would they do, especially since Broad and Friends, they have made a few changes in their roster, bringing in some very good players known in the UK scene. So tonight is really going to be the big showing of what RIZE is going to do against a better stacked team like this.
Yeah. And whilst I certainly have not had the opportunity, should we say, to witness these players play in all of their glory consistently, some of these guys are people that even I know from the amateur scenes. Like, I've run into players like QQR and Port before, out in the Phoenix League and out in a few other layers, a little bit lower down, should we say, than this wonderful tournament. But it is a place where we got to witness them for the first time, and both players with a lot of experience now in team play at this point, and a lot of sparks always fly when I get to witness them. So I'm super excited to watch this. I'm hoping, as a little fan of Porp, I loved his Lee Sin back in the day, so I want to see a Porp Lee Sin game. I know it's not something we're expecting tonight, but it would make me very, very happy as we do get into the Champs Select starting things off.
Yeah, RIZE Gaming will have blue side here as we're seeing the bans right away. RIZE taking away the Karthus, so it must be something that Porp's enjoying, because honestly, Karthus is just only something you'll ever see in jungle. And with the champions, I think you mentioned them playing Viego as well. Like, these are good jungle champions. Lee Sin is just something that it's nothing you see banned, because it's just that it's the kind of champion that's just always good, right? If you're good enough, you can perform on it, and it's something that in the best of 3 series, you might leave it open to see how it works. So if it's played, it's fun to watch too. So I'd be all ready for it. Broad and Friends taking away Kasante from Shmion, and we're getting a Wukong ban. So looks like Porp might have opened up their champ pool a bit.
Yeah, so a fun thing about Porp is that he did used to spam Karthus as well, back in the lower divisions. He used to play it a lot. The other thing about Karthus is it does enable AD-based picks elsewhere in the draft.
Yes.
So you can have your Yasuo's, your Yone's in the mid lane. You can have these kind of more aggressive AD-based picks. And with the current AP-based jungle pool, the options are not amazing. You can still go to things like Lilia, you can go to things like Gragas to an extent if you want to go down a little bit on the tier list. But aside from that, there's not really a lot of options that come into play, aside from your Yasuo Diana, I guess. So a lot of these junglers are defaulting to these AD junglers, such as your Xin Zhao's, such as your Wukong, as we see it banned. We can also see things like Skarner was huge for a very long time. Obviously, it had some nerfs, but it's still pretty decent, I think. So I'm expecting us to go towards those AD-based junglers coming out, which means obviously our more traditional mage picks in the mid lane.
Yeah, one of the mage picks that's very popular right now is this Victor that was banned away. I believe Xiaomei did play it 2 days ago in their game against DMG. And Victor just looks good right now. Ever since those arcane buffs finally came through, the changes just made it like a champion that was already like decent. Just absolute S tier, and no surprise seeing that banned away. And it looks like RIZE, with their first pick, will be opting in for the Ashe. DDD, Ashe is just one of their champions they look way too good on. We were talking about this before. I mentioned Ashe. We also mentioned the Ezreal. Those are two champions this guy loves, and they can freely pick whatever they want here right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we discussed earlier DDD being one of the main carries for this RIZE gaming team, and someone that we're going to be looking forward to seeing that play. And if we're looking for a decision maker, a game decider, playing towards this bottom side through their jungle position has typically been their recipe for success. So it's not something to be too surprised about. As you said, the Ashe, the Ezreal, both picks we love to see. The great thing about Ashe, obviously, is the amount of utilities she brings. Seems like we actually just got Chrono broke. I didn't know Echo was available. Seems like it hasn't been picked just yet nor banned, so I'm not entirely sure about that. Maybe that was a arcane spoiler coming into effect, as we do see Ezreal Viego taken away. Mentioned that port Viego earlier. It's locked in.
Yeah, I mean, Viego is just a great champion because, like, it works when you're ahead and it works when you're behind too, because if you get a shutdown on an essential carry, you can take over them for a few seconds and play that strong champion. Ezreal too. I mean, Ezreal, it's a champion I always had issues with because I was like, you gotta be very good to perform them to the best, and that's why DDD always surprised me. I haven't seen Spark play it, but I've only heard good things about Spark, so he gives off the impression from that's something they can do. And now Ryan Gosling on Kayn, definitely one of their comfort champions. They whipped this out towards the end of the UKL Div 2 playoffs, and they looked very good on it. So for sure, a comfort pick, and actually a very good pick for them here too.
There's also a nice thing in terms of draft theory about picking the Ezreal here, which is the idea that if we now see a really good performance from Spark, it creates a really difficult drafting scenario for game number 2, as you can now look to take away that Ezreal in game number 2 if you do obviously get the blue side over for Broad and Friends, or you can just ignore the Ashe pick and force your AD carry trade position. So it does create a nice little drafting scenario later on if they do perform well on it this game. So I like the idea, especially in game 1 where you do have a game you can afford to drop. We mentioned earlier that if Xiaomei was going to play anything, this team looks a lot better when he's on more supportive style mid laners. The Galio was something you mentioned to me, at least off camera, which I obviously was accurate in this particular situation. And works really well with Kayn as well, as obviously you can just ulti into people, have the ulti come down. It's kind of like a heat-seeking missile, if you will. And whilst Orianna is a champion that can have a decent laning phase into the Galio, it's not necessarily the safest. And with the amount of engage that comes through on this blue side, there could be options here for Avenue into that mid lane.
Yeah, you're going to want some kind of tank coming through from Broad and Friends soon, especially when you have these crystal arrows from Ashe, right? Like, someone needs to be the front line to absorb this initial engage from them, so they have time for it.
And that's something we haven't actually discussed as much, is that I think, from my experience, at least in solo queue, maybe I'm just really bad, which is definitely a possibility. But tanks feel really strong. I don't know what it is, but they just feel really hard to kill. And I think part of that is because a lot of these tank shredding itemization options have kind of slowly but surely got worse over the years. Bork had some hits, Kraken Slayer had some hits. When LDR got changed, the last Whisper section actually now gives less of the penetration. It used to be 45%, now down to 40 or 35, I think. So there's quite a big dip over the course of the game. That means these tanky health-based champions can get a lot of value. The one that I've seen that has been a nightmare that I don't think we'll see, but is worth noting, is Cho'Gath, surprisingly. He has been disgusting recently, and no one is picking it. So if we see a Cho'Gath pick, I would not be surprised, but I'm not expecting it to happen. Just keep it in mind that those tank top laners are something that we can come through, and both these AD carries are not going to be the greatest at tank shredding with the current itemization issues.
We'll have to see what Gov picks up in the top lane. I remember when I watched them play top lane before, they enjoyed picks like Gragas and Renekton, and when we were talking about RIZE top laner Shmion, they were the biggest Maokai lover ever in the Div 2 playoffs, and that's not been banned away at all yet. I mean, it will get, never mind. Speaking of it, it will get picked away, so very nicely drafted there by Broad and Friends to kind of secure that pick for them, and we're liking these tanky champions. And also, even an opportunity, it can go top lane, it can also go support here if they're looking for something interesting. And we'll get another tank being covered. Big tank style, not quite the Cho'Gath, but the AD stacking version of him, if anything. So, another very, very healthy champion up there.
Yeah, I mean, it's more HP, more stacking. And whilst I like the idea of a Darius hover, it's just a little bit inconsistent against things like an Ezreal that can shift away, like an Orianna that can give herself movement speed and just run away, especially when the Maokai can just peel. So in team fights, it gets very hard. You have to play very split push style. At that point, you might as well play something that can be more centered towards the split pushing. Instead, you can play Scion, play it as a little bit of a split pushing option, whilst also giving you that frontline and engage potential. And if there's one thing this blue side comp loves to do at the moment, it is press an R button and just go and kill people, and I love that for them.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to think about comps. Simplicity will win, right? Like, you can pick all the best champions. You can be the best at playing them, but if it's just too complex, you can struggle, and sometimes simplicity is king. And when you're looking at the champions, I mean, both sides, they have very good simple ults, like Shockwave with Orianna. You just fire it into a team fight, you hit enough, it's great. Maokai's ultimate. I'm a huge Maokai enjoyer myself. This guy just has huge team fight potential as things go on, so I think both these teams are leaning in different ways, but when you see like a champion like the Ashe, that's the big kind of first engage ultimate. Follow that through with a Scion and a Galio flying in from downtown, like that could be a lot of really nice engage. So far, looking good, and the draft will be closed off with a Nautilus for Rodden Friends.
Yeah, I don't dislike Nautilus. I think the lane itself is a little bit neutralizing, as obviously Milio is very good into these slower engage buttons, as obviously you can buff your Q, create the separation, and then you can slowly but surely kite him down. Creates a weird scenario where you going in is then, oh yeah, now Milio and Ashe are pressing all their buttons and murdering you, so you can't really ever pull the trigger in that matchup unless it's really well played and there's a good separation situations. So it's kind of like a scale till 6 bot lane matchup now.
Yeah.
But what it does do for the Nautilus is does show up one of the big weaknesses of the comp which they had, which is their go buttons kind of sucked, especially against this blue side, because Maokai ult just comes in, Galio just face tanks it, and he's chilling. Same with Scion, right? So now they have a button where they can actually go on someone and force the engage onto the target they like. So it does fill out a compositional niche whilst also not necessarily gaining the advantage, but it's fine enough that you can make an argument for it being okay here.
For sure. I mean, it's like, depth charge. You press it on the Ashe, you will guarantee hitting her. There's nothing that RIZE can exactly do to dodge it. Like Milio, sure, they have the cleanse ability, but it's a knockup, right? It won't work out. So, especially for a mobile AD carries like the Ashe, that can be very good at kiting and playing distance, you want to have something that will guaranteed hit. So, I have to agree with that. I think that's a good round off. And overall, I think they've got two really good drafts. Like, this is like the first time in a long time I've seen two different teams entirely. And like, they both just look really solid. Like, there's no, I don't know, I don't exactly see a clear favorite here. Like, maybe a slight lean towards Broad and Friends just because, well, actually, I don't even know. Like, it feels like RIZE have easier champions too, right? Like, what do you think?
So what I would say is that Broad and Friends is more traditional. If you wanted a full 5 that you will see in pro play more often out of the two, you would most likely be wanting to pick this this right-hand composition here. This is what you would want if you want to go with the traditional option.
Yeah.
This is what you want to go if you want to be a really lovely-looking caster smile. But if you want to go a little bit further over, then you've got a much more powerful late-game sort of carry within the Ashe, as you've got this Milio buffing, applying the burn over and over and over again with her insanely high attack speed, right? You get the damage from that. You do have buttons. It does mean that you can play a little bit more well from if you do fall behind, as you can disengage slightly, which the red comp doesn't really have the ability to do. It's quite hard. It's a very difficult one to navigate. Personally, I think the biggest deciding factor is how relevant Kayn is. Because this champion is very feast or famine. If he gets ahead, he can be such a disruptor and such a source of pain. The red side composition actually has some problems and forces to use resources to stop him. That means you can start to snowball through fights and play them quickly. If that doesn't work, he's kind of his name just becomes Kevin and he's just vibing. He's not doing anything really. So shout out to all the Kevins.
And do you think it'll be an obvious like red or blue Kayn this game? I mean, when it's Kayn, it's always red, right? Like
it's weird. A lot of people have been going purple Kayn, where you go Rast, but you build blue items.
Okay.
And so he's just purple now, and he just does 1 million damage and just knocks up too. So it varies. I would say red in pro play is usually more traditional, but we'll see. It depends on the player.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely have to wait and see, as we will throw into a short break while we wait for this game to load in. So we will see you guys in a minute for the first of this best of 3 RIZE versus Broad and Friends. It'll be hype. Can't wait. See you guys then. And welcome back, everybody, to this game one. Rise on the blue side and Broad Friends on the red side. Recollect, are we seeing anything exciting here rune-wise? Looks like kind of a standard start, doesn't it?
Yeah, nothing specifically jumping out at me as particularly crazy. It all looks pretty standard. Um, Nothing to jump home about. We're expecting to see the tank and the Sion on the top side. I thought for a second there's a chance we could see some spicy stuff with proxy strats, but doesn't look like that's going to be anything coming out this time around as we see a modified 5-point defense here coming through from Rise, and on the red side we're going to see BNF trying to do some cheese stuff here in the bot side. Obviously they want to get some advantage at level 1 with the Nautilus before the lane becomes completely neutralized, but yeah, nothing too wild going to happen here as both teams just respecting their vision and preparing for what should be an exciting series.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, we see the sweeper start there from Zeta as well, so they're looking for any kind of opportunity to just take over this lane and just sweep out any vision that Rise might try to set in an early time, which I like because, you know, Nautilus in a bush that you can't see, that's one scary Nautilus, and that's kind of how you'll want to play it at the start to just try and catch out either Scooby-Dooby-Doo or DDD in this situation. These guys are just the funnest right now. DDD and Scooby-Dooby-Doo, I mean, what better names do we have to call them out as they are running in,
They are not paying attention.
roaring, but they're waiting for the minions, so no.
I thought there was a chance we could maybe hook around the creep, but doesn't look like Zeta was in the right spot. But either way, for a second I was worried, but these players are significantly better than me and my solo queue teammates, so they're actually paying attention. Best of luck to them. Q starts the lane, but nothing too wild as both teams start off with their trading patterns, and we see both junglers here pathing, starting on their red sides, respectively, pathing to the opposite sides. It does mean that we'll be expecting Ryan Gosling to look towards that top side for their first kind of marks, which again to me signifies we're going to be looking at red cane, obviously melees, giving that red stacks to help out with the Rast form.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to. It's kind of interesting this top lane because it's Sion Maokai. Like, you don't really expect these guys to die anytime soon or make the mistakes where they'll drop health. Like, if anything, they're gonna trade for 5 minutes and just infinitely stack grasp. So we'll have to see how Ryan Gosling plays this because, as you mentioned, they want to get this form on as soon as possible, and they're not going to get it anywhere else besides potentially the Maokai. So that does make sense, but you have to be careful because if Porp sees an opportunity to make a play towards this bot lane, if DDD or Scooby-Dooby-Doo drop a bit of health before that, then it could be punishing, but this Gov tries to cancel that Q away, but actually just takes a really bad chunk, so might punish them in the long form of things.
The only punish we'll see for a minute is going to be a very small demolish proc. Don't worry, we'll get later and those will start to do a little bit more damage as we go. I promise you that much. But for now, obviously the other advantage to the Kane side and the bot side is his ability to clear those multi-camps so quickly. With the Q AoE damage just shredding through Raptor camp, so perhaps that was part of the reason as well. Just a nice little extra benefit as we do see Pulp destroying this blue buff. CS-wise, everyone pretty similar, pretty standard. A very slight advantage here for the Sion on the top side, and a very slight advantage for those on the bot side, but both laners still catching CS. So it's going to even out, as I do expect to see a relatively quiet early game. Just teams wanting to farm up, wanting to get themselves to those one-item spikes that most of these champions are very strong on before we see a lot of action.
Definitely.
Oh, look at Porp, though.
Yeah, you did see Ryan Gosling go for the quick recall, but Porp is hiding just out of vision. Will hit the stun as Almay dashes into it. However, with the taunt, should get tanky enough to get out of that one. I mean, it looks like they might have been trying to get a reset anyway, so with the teleport, we'll be able to recall and get back to lane very quickly.
Yeah, the most important thing now to note will be the item advantage here between the junglers. Obviously, Porp now going to have to skip out on his reset time to clear those Raptors, likely clear the Krugs as well. So if there is any impact between the junglers, Ryan Gosling will actually be the one that's significantly stronger, as that time that was used up here on that gank potentially could be a punishment window. Doesn't look like there's going to be any action for the minute, as instead we will see the vision contest here on the bottom side from the BNF bot line, instead just getting themselves that safety net that we do call vision control.
Yeah, I mean, Dragon spawning in 20 seconds. We'll have to see how these teams decide to favor it. Ryan Gosling is moving up to the top side, so they will do a good job of cycling their camps on respawn. And this does mean Porp will be bot side for the Dragon when it spawns, if they look for something early. But with the Grubbies spawning up, you know, fairly soon as well, just a minute to go, maybe we'll have to see how that goes. I mean, I haven't been following too much in the past few weeks, depending on where these teams have been prioritizing grubs over dragon, because sometimes you'll see a team secure all the grubs, but they just end up losing out on value because they don't get the stats from the dragon, they don't win the fights because of it, and they just never touch towers. So it'll be important for them that if they do opt in for these grubs, to try and pressure some kind of side lanes. And I'm sure if you're a Scion, you would love to have a fully stacked grubs on top of any kind of just initial damage you have through demolish and so on.
Yeah, you're definitely not going to be upset about getting the grubbies. I do think personally I'd want to prioritize the dragon in this particular game just because I think that these compositions are so well equipped at their team fighting aspects, and so securing that soul becomes so much more important when we do get to that third, fourth dragon sort of timing. So just getting that little bit of advantage is nice. Obviously, though, the grubs, if it is free and open, which both of these junglers starting to path towards, it is an option that you would want to explore. And with this rotation from Zeta, they have that support move, as instead we see Scooby-Dooby-Doo electing to stay in that bottom side with DDD. So the idea here is you might lose a little bit of CS and perhaps plates over to your bot lane, but in exchange you will secure those grubs, potentially with the dragon traded off as well.
For sure. I mean, Scooby-Dooby-Doo. I mean, look at this bot lane from RIZE entirely. They have all their pots available. Like, it's been a very, very slow lane down there. So it was actually a good opportunity from Zeta to find a chance to recall and move. And it makes sense, because when you have a bot lane like Ashe and Milio, it's not exactly the kind of lane you're going to die in a 1v2, especially as an AD carry like Ezreal. So great opportunities for Zeta to try and get on this map, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they play it, because if you can't get anything bot lane, it would be nice to see them move to the mid lane, look for the Galio, and try and make a play with Pope as well. That's how I would like to see it, but we'll just have to wait and see, as Dragon is picked up and Grub's ready on the top side, so a good classic 1-for-1 trade and objectives.
I think the most impressive thing, though, is that despite that little bit of time without Zeta, there is still a CS advantage here for Spark. So Spark has managed to accrue a very small CS lead, same obviously going over to QQR, which is a matchup we haven't really spoken as much about, running that Aerie on this Orianna. QQR is a player who has consistently been very decent at laning, and against Xiaomai, who perhaps has been one of the underperformers on this roster, it is a matchup to watch as potential exploitation might come through here from BNF.
Yeah, he's getting chunked surprisingly low here, but they seem to be very comfortable with that health bar as they, again, dash away, but they're going to be forced to recall. And you know what? You can see that little bit of CS differences coming from the second recall here, and QQR, they use their TP as well. Never mind that. Look at this top lane right here. These tanks, like, they look low. Like, you see Shmion right there. He looks low, but he's got so much health. It's like 1,000 health in his pocket right there. Like, these guys are just having fun in the top lane, I swear. Like, if anyone dies here, maybe not. I mean, flash in from Gov.
Ult available.
Does have the max health damage there. Full chunk from Shmion. Looking to fight this up. No junglers anywhere to help out, as Shmion does have the ultimate. Will use it to run down the lane after they get the angle. Wow, I mean, I have to give massive respect. But actually, no, bot lane, Zeta Spark looking for a fight. DDD flashed away. Q will connect from Spark, but Scooby-Dooby-Doo is tanking up any other damage that will be thrown out as DDD steps in for the hook, but it's just a bait. Zeta takes the tower damage, but it's not enough. His first blood goes over to Spark. Pope will show up from the side. As I love the play from RIZE there, trying to bait them in, but it wasn't enough, and Spark gets the first blood.
Yeah, lovely additional Q there from Zeta. The damage is more than enough from Spark, and extra summoners being blown afterwards by Pope. It's lovely stuff. The one advantage on the top side, by the way, is that Shmion didn't have to flash. So it was strangely a flash advantage gained for Sion in that trade on the top side. But I wouldn't necessarily call that worth if you do lose first blood and your AD carry. Because suddenly there's now going to be a plate advantage going over, I imagine, to this red side, bot side. There's a CS lead. They're going to have item advantage. You now have a win condition starting to be established.
And they didn't even use their barrier, right? Spark had that up. So no matter how low, sure, Zeta was the one that went under tower. That was the one they were trying to, you know, trap in. But even so, like, that fight was even, you could consider it not as close as it actually was. And especially like a champion like Ezreal, they will be very happy to get any kind of early golden lead. And a champion like Ashe, they can play from behind a bit. Pope is looking to contest the crab here. Smite will go over to Ryan Gosling, as this is a 3-for-3. Grub spawning in soon, and yeah, definitely if you're on the side of RIZE, you don't want to have to give off all 3 grubs again. You'd like to get at least 1 to not give the full 6. So we'll have to see how they play this map state.
Whilst it isn't as relevant in this particular situation, it is also worth noting that they're not going to have as much advantage here on that bottom side for the side of BNF, simply because the Ezreal has not reset up those kills, to my knowledge. He's still on the map, still hasn't had a chance to actually utilize a lot of that gold. Would be interesting to see. So he's got like 1,600 gold in the bank that he's not been able to actually cash in. So in order to actually push that advantage, hasn't been able to essentially go to the market yet and buy himself that Triforce that I'm sure he is dying to pick up. So realistically, they're just going to be farming separately, and it's just going to come down to these 3-man roam squads to see who can actually push the advantages. Porp in the top side, looking for Shmion.
Shmion using the flash and doing some creative angles will get out again, as currently this Scion ult is used as an escape twice in a row. Attention onto Zeta's depth charge used on the Scooby-Doo. Will get hooked, CC through, and is taken down. Ultimate from Galio is cancelled. Shmion on the side will use the knockup onto Gov. Here comes the Ashe ultimate. Will stun up Zeta, but it's not quite enough as Ryan Gosling is trying to do anything to get a 1 kill. Will take down Gov, is looking for more, gets a 2nd kill, and with the healing from Conqueror, keeps them alive for just a moment, but not long enough as QQR is able to escape out of this one, but a hook from Zeta will connect onto Xiaomei. Xiaomei flashing out, will run for their life as they should just barely escape. And a very, very nice play from Ryan Gosling will rob 2 kills back.
Yeah, so close. I love the initial engage. Boss out?
Bit of a fight coming through, but I can't imagine Spark's gonna go for any kind of fancy dives. I think the team's gonna calm down after that fight around that Grubbies.
Give a minute, you never know, you never know. Yeah, it was a little bit tough. I love the initial engage there from Zeta onto the flashless Milio. Does find him and manage to blow him up. The issue is the counterplay is just too much. Porp ends up getting slowly but surely murked down. Luckily, in the end, no one on Rise in their final 2 members actually have mana. So they can't fight out the rest of the fight despite it being top mid versus mid support. They don't have the tools to fight back, so they can re-establish vision for BNF. However,
flash in from Zeta onto Ryan Gosling will connect, but no one killed quite yet. Xiaomei in the midst of things will try to get a taunt asp, and you can see the tankiness of this Scion. They are slowly getting blown down and will get taken down eventually, as there they finally get dropped. And this is the kind of extended trades rather than Grubbies. The Xiaomei gets hooked, does not have the flash away to get out as Shmion, and the passive really doesn't pick up there. And Scooby-Doo on the side will get picked up, as now Ryan Gosling is using the ultimate. Cuticard not quite low enough, as they will go down. Double kill over to Gov. And can we just call out, DDD tried to move up to mid lane to help that. Meanwhile, Spark took bot side tower, all 5 plates over, and is hitting this tower as Broad & Friends is getting an impressive 5k gold lead.
Yeah, might be able to get the 2nd turret as well, and because one of those grubs already dead now thanks to the 4 grubs. Gonna be a 6 grub situation. They fought a 4v4, turned 4v5 later, won it out of mechanics and just sheer play, because at the start it was a 3v3, almost 3v4 engage they went for. The Maokai showing up a little bit later on, but it doesn't end up mattering. They pick up a wonderful shockwave to stop Xiaomei from running away, so he ends up getting killed. Same with Ryan Gosling getting caught by the Maokai engage, and slowly but surely the target selection is just slightly better from the side of BNF, and they utilize that to leverage themselves into a gold advantage that's up to 5k.
Sure, I mean, it's always, you know, these extended grubs fights are interesting because it's the kind of one where they fought once, both teams kind of won it out, and then they respawned, went back, and repeated the fight again. And this time, Broad & Friends was able to come out on top, picked up all the grubs, and now with Dragon on the map, and especially with all the gold priority now they've gained from winning those fights, I mean, RIZE is going to have to try and really figure something out to be able to contest this and take the Dragon. Like, yes, they got 1, so it will slow down any potential stacking for Broad & Friends, but giving over 6 grubs and then the 2nd Dragon of the game is definitely not a situation you want to be in for them.
Definitely not. But when you are in these kind of situations, it becomes so hard to come back into the game, because teams like BNF are so good at taking these very small advantages and just playing safely with them to accrue slightly incremental gold advantages. And a small lump sum of change, it's just like an interest rate. It slowly starts to accrue and become a bigger and bigger advantage as you go further and further. So they're going to utilize their gold to leverage it into neutral objectives, to leverage into more gold. The way to fight back in those situations, you've got to fight on your item spikes. And when we're looking at those spikes, Scion, 1 item in. The Kane got himself that Eclipse. We're now going to be looking for Galio and Ashe to come through with their first major items. Maybe when we see those, we'll start to see fights break out again.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at this thing, the Sarah from Orianna already stacked, so that's just such a huge value there. You see 170 stacks for the Ezreal, now 180, so They are slowly ticking ahead bit by bit. Pope just completing their jungle item as well, so both junglers do have the empowered smite. Is now we're getting pings around this Rift Herald, and I know if you're Broad and Friends, you would love to pick up a Herald here and also match that with 6 grubs, because the push potential you'll have from that is absolutely insane. As DDD gets dropped to half health from Spark. I mean, I don't think I was able to, like I said, I haven't seen Spark play Ezreal before, but from what I'm seeing so far, it's looking very, very good as this guy is just playing their spacing nicely. They know where they can step up and just being so confident, knowing that they have the flash and the Arcane Shift available, just to be able to get out of anything. So, you know what, when you see Ezreals like these, they're definitely really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, it is the biggest compositional weakness that RIZE has, is whilst they do have these engage tools, there's nothing that is just a guaranteed engage necessarily onto Spark, outside of Smite R from Ryan Gosling into maybe a Galio over the top. But aside from that kind of play, they don't really have a good button. They don't have a Nautilus ult to just guarantee catch onto them. And Ash Arrow is great, but it can still be shifted. It can still be flashed. So there are still some counterplays. QQR might be in trouble.
Ooh, they're looking for a dive.
Shockwave.
Come through. Xiaomi will be tanking this tower. There's a lot of damage coming through. Ultimate being used to dash in the same spot. But that should buy just barely enough times. The tower will reset onto Ryan Gosling. But with what looked like a Triumph Peel proc coming through, we'll keep them alive, as they do very nicely get one tower. But, well, not one tower, one kill, but in return, Broad and Friends pick up the mid lane tower there.
Yeah, the Triumph is lovely. Does end up helping out. It's a good play overall. I feel like QQR played it well. Oh, poor. Oh, no, that's...
Stepping up a bit too far is a big shield explosion from Shmion. We'll get a nice shutdown there, though I know if you're DDD, you would have wished to take that gold yourself, but you know what? Sion will take some gold. That works out.
You know what? Some things never change, and I miss Pop. You know, that's my boy right there. He's back. Been a while. Unfortunately, is trying to steal away those camps. Doesn't actually have the protection of his teammates, and ends up getting collapsed on and one shot by what feels like full tank Sion. So, unfortunately, he did not read the patch notes, and sometimes that happens. So, there's always next time. What isn't available next time is the potential gold being as high as it was, as it's now gone down to 4k, 4.5 now, as we see another engage from Xiaomei.
Xiaomei looking for more. Ryan Gosling on this side. TP coming through from Shmion. Might get interrupted by Gov, but won't get there. Arrow flying through, won't connect, as Zeta can be the next target, as they kind of split up a bit. QQR on the side slowly getting taken down by Ryan Gosling, but Pope on the side looking for someone, but there's not enough damage from them either. And QQR is still on the run, as RIZE just seemed completely lost on who to focus, and it looks like QQR might TPing out of this, and they're out of it! They get the escape! RIZE just completely lost on who they want to focus there. Meanwhile, topside Gob takes a tower, and you respect, like, this is good from RIZE. They try to make a play, but they just can't commit to the side, as Broad and Friends just throw so many opportunities at them, so many decisions to make that RIZE just so lost, and with that, get absolutely nothing in return.
And in situations like that, it has to be said that the issue there must be the calls, right? It's got to be the communication for the target focus. They end up splitting on too many targets, and somehow, some way, instead of getting 2, they get absolutely no one. They lose a top turret in what I thought was a really good play, where QQR was getting caught out and made a massive mistake. Instead, ends up alive. They get the top turret. Ezreal gets a free wave in mid. It's really not that bad if you look just objectively on the outcome itself and not at the setup. Having said that, we have just seen a potential recipe that RIZE is looking to exploit. They found QQR in a side lane twice. Yes, he survives in this most recent situation, but realistically, how much of that survival was because of QQR and how much of that was because of RIZE not target focusing properly? It begs the question, if it happens twice, could it happen a third time?
This time, Shmion's going to be the one on the side, but we'll
There's the third time with that.
to just run away. It wasn't as flashy as the last time, but now Zeta on the side, and the tower's so low, they can just take down this tower before now focusing down Shmion, as they didn't commit to running away entirely. They will take a very, lengthy time to get there, but eventually it will get taken down. As you'll see Shmion trying to get this cannon minion, but actually won't be able to. And with that, 1 kill going over to Broad and Friends, as they should hopefully turn to take this dragon as well, but they might stick around for DDD if they step up too far.
I think that constitutes bullying. Just denying a Scion passive from getting a cannon. That's an unfortunate one. And on to the subject, Ryan Gosling trying to get in and smite that. Didn't get it.
Here comes the play. Galio driving in as they're focusing on QQR. No flash, nothing. Will get taken down. Pope is the next target here. Dropping low. Will try to dash his way as Ryan Gosling will commit into Gov. Zeta on the side getting focused down. Second kill over for Rise. Looking for more as a TP from Shmiel, I think. No, Shmiel now respawning on the side. Will come in there. And it looks like Pope will get out of this alive, but Spark is looking for more, playing their distance very nicely, and I think Rise will only be able to take down the 2 kills, and in return, we'll lose a dragon, but those are 2 very nice kills for Rise to know that, hey, they're still in this fight to win it.
It is incredible though that they managed to pick up both kills, and yet the dragon is still going to go over to BNF. Just shows how far ahead they are in terms of the game state, and maybe going to be losing the turret. This might be too greedy though.
Bar dashing out there, doesn't quite collect the knockup from Ryan Gosling, but Gov will be focused instead. But this is a very tanky Shmion. Meanwhile, on the side, Xiaomei did get onto Spark. Spark is knocked up here. Barrier being used. They aren't dead just yet as they're playing on the life's edge, kiting away bit by bit as they won't be killed. Xiaomei will eventually take down Pope, but they will trade their own life in return as Spark is just dancing on the edge of this fight. Shmion trying to tank up whatever they can, but it seems the rest of Rise is just too scared to step up to save their poor top laner as the Ash Arrow will try to snipe out. But this Spark, honestly, what did I just watch? This person cannot die, it seems.
It was definitely a scary situation there from Spark. Did end up getting caught out there by Xiaomei temporarily, but they just didn't have the follow-up to get him during the CC. Eventually manages to create enough separation with a little bit of help from his teammates to stay alive in that whole exchange. Overall, Rise, an excellent attempt, but it doesn't end up working out entirely for them. They end up losing Shmion again, who just seems like the sacrificial lamb on every play, the poor lad. We're going to get there. Eventually, the Scion will become a mini-raid boss, but at the moment, it is this mid-game centric Ezreal who has started to step up. Look at the gold advantage in the AD carry position, up 2,000 just in isolation. You can see it on the items, that Last Whisper coming into effect. Once we get that turned into a full Mortal Reminder or Lord Dominic's, you know the damage is going to start being dished out brutally.
Definitely. Now we'll have to see if these teams calm down a bit with the Baron now on the map, because it's 8-10, which does mean that both teams are killing each other equally, and all this gold has likely come out through objectives. Just DDD, making me a bit nervous there as they step into that bush and bait out a quick hook from Zeta. But yeah, no, if any team makes any mistake here, it could be Baron on the line, as we see Xiaomei pushing quite far down into this bot lane on their own. They do have the Hero's Entrance available to try and teleport around, but it's not as long range to Baron from down there. So we'll have to see if anyone's sent down to match, as we do see Golf running through that jungle, looking to catch up with someone.
Yeah. On the plus side, if you can get some of that turret damage, you're a little bit closer to getting yourself some of that standing gold. The tower plates obviously coming into, or not the tower plates, sorry, the bounty system coming into effect if they can get themselves that back online. It's something to get you back into it. The only issue is I wouldn't necessarily want the gold to be prioritized onto my Galio. But then again, neither of these solo laners is particularly amazing for turning games around when they're behind to this extent. Obviously, Sion can get really tanky and be a nightmare to kill, but if he can't access anyone and just gets kited forever, then it doesn't really matter. On the subject of things that might matter, the Baron has been started up here. The damage isn't the best, but it's not terrible. It's only spotted at 6k.
Ryan Gosling is in the area now. Baron down to 4k as here comes Shmion flying in. Very tanky. Ultimate onto 2 as Ryan Gosling just barely buys enough time, but will die to the Ignite in their ultimate as the jungler is down. Gov coming in from the side is looking for something. Meanwhile, Shmion was able to take down Zeta with Xiaomei, but it's not going to be quite enough as here comes Pope using the Heartbreaker. Will take one, puts their attention on DDD, who's forced to flash out, does have it available to use again, and another 2 kills go over to Broad and Friends as Shmion, the last man standing, is on the run, but on the wrong side of the map. Doesn't have the ultimate to get out, as you can't just know that they are going to die at some point, as the kill will likely be given over to QQR in about 10 minutes. So there we go. We'll get the kill, and Baron should go over to Broad and Friends right now.
Yeah, and the Pope Viego comes back with a vengeance. I haven't seen it in a little while, but it's just as disgustingly frustrating to play against as I remember. The Baron is going to go over. It's going to be a quick one, 10k advantage gained. It does, I believe, manage to go onto all 5 members as they had respawned. So they're going to be able to pick that one up. They can then transition that one quickly into the Dragon in a minute's time once they've pushed out these waves and gained themselves the necessary vision control to guarantee themselves that one. Remember, once they pick this one up, they are on Soul Point at that point. So that Infernal Soul is definitely going to pack a punch, especially on someone who can poke as well as an Ezreal or an Orianna can do.
Yeah, no, just one thing to call out.
Aww, that's just mean. He's just stolen the
Raptors
Raptors with a Q. That's just not fun.
I mean, if you're going to, why not? And I mean, you know what? This gold lead isn't quite accurate because just a shout out, Pope, they built Collector and ended up selling it for a different item here, so why the heck not? Meanwhile, Ryan Gosling caught out in their own jungle, gets a nice chunk of healing up from their ultimate, as Shmion and Xiaomei incredibly tanky, buying a lot of time, but DDD's nowhere there, and as they shoot, as they show up,
Pope's killing him.
Pope is waiting for them in the bush, and will take down the AD carry. Meanwhile, Zeta will get the hook onto the side, as Ryze is forced to run back into their base. Xiaomei will get taken down, and Ryan Gosling and Scooby-Dooby-Doo, the only 2 members left to defend their base, as we'll have to see what Broad and Friends do here. The Dragon is up for the taking, but there's no need. You have Baron, you have 6 grubs. At this point, you can just look to take down the base.
You know what? My man doesn't need the Collector. He's too busy collecting skulls as he takes away DDD's life again. The Ashe just gets assassinated on the way to the fight. Doesn't even get to hit anyone else, realistically. Spark now just running them down. It's turned into an absolute snowball fest. 12k advantage. They got themselves the Grubbies, they got themselves the Baron, they got themselves some Nexus Towers, and looks like they're going to have themselves a win very soon.
They might look for one last kill as RIZE is on the last defense right here. Flash in from Shmion, trying to be some kind of distracting factor. As it looks like Broad and Friends is stepping away from the Nexus, but they will focus down Shmion first. Shmion, very tanky, still not dead, will get respawned as Sion passive, so maybe RIZE is able to hold the grounds right here as Broad and Friends is on full retreat. Pope dashing out of this one. DDD free hitting Gov, but Gov incredibly tanky. Flash hook from Zeta will connect onto DDD. Will go 1 for 1 as Gov is now hitting the Nexus as Xiaomei's the last one alive. But with an ace, Broad and Friends go out in style, getting 5 more kills and get the kill, bringing them over to a win in this best of 3 against RIZE.
And we've got ourselves a match here. BNF showing up. They do end up giving themselves the win here in game number 1, and it is kind of something that I think some people weren't expecting was going to happen here, given this is a team that, if my memory serves, they were the demoting team, no? The one that was currently in Div 1, had that 3-5 record. I was saying earlier, you know, they weren't a bad team. They were 3-5. The only team they actually got 2-0'd by, the team that won the entire group. They 2-0'd basically everyone, to my knowledge. I think there was maybe one team they went 1-1 with. But that team was good that they were against. Every other team, they are a standard, decent Div 1 team. This team is the bar. This is what you have to expect you are playing against. If you cannot beat this team, you are going to go 0-2 against every other team in Div 1. So this is who you need to be expected to beat. If you can't match them, you are not ready for Div 1 yet. And RIZE, they need to rise above it. They're struggling with that bar at the moment.
Definitely. But when you're looking at the last series against DMG, they did drop the first game and then won the second 2. And this is a best of 3. So there's always opportunity for them to come back. And considering that DMG are completely out, the loser of tonight will also play against 200 Bandits tomorrow. But we'll get to that a bit more later, as we'll throw into a short break right now before we get ready for this game too. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you guys soon. All right, welcome back in tonight, everybody, to this little break between game one and game two. Recollect, we had a spicy game there, didn't we? Like that was a action and a half coming from both sides. Quite
We love a bit of spice. We like a little bit of spice in our lives, and it's always a little bit of fun. It didn't start out like the most exciting game to begin with. It took a few minutes for us to get into it. It needed a bit of time to marinate, but once we got to that grub fight, the game started to snowball from there. And unfortunately, if you are a RIZE fan, it didn't go in your way. The first initial fight, great. The refight, horrible. And from there, the game started to snowball pretty steadily, shall we say, until it reached a certain point where it just tipped over and just barreled down for the rest of the match. So the question now becomes, can RIZE find a way to either get their foot in the door to be the ones to make that first proactive move, or can they stop the snowball until they reach a point where they can make that move?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so when we're looking at this game, I mean, big standout for most of all was the pull, right? We were speaking about this guy before, ended up one of their signature Viegos. One of my favorite things I watched from that game was towards the end, it looked like there was a fight where RIZE was winning. But the only reason why was because Pulp was just chilling in a bush, waiting for DDD to walk into them, and then that's what happened. Ash face checked a very fed Viego. Not only was this Viego was so fed, he bought Collector and was like, you know what, this is actually a trash item. Sold it, bought the Kraken Slayer instead, and still like did not look like they were behind in economy at all. So that guy was just fun to watch, you know. Besides that one moment where they got caught in the jungle, which we don't talk about, that never happened. But yeah, very
As a wise man once said, never underestimate the power of bush strats. The bush is powerful. It's wonderful. Yeah, it genuinely, Paul played a decent game. You know, there was the early gank at the start, which obviously made Galio chunked out. He probably was going to base anyway, but it was fine. But the fact that despite that, there was no real time loss between his camp clearing, so it wasn't exactly punished particularly, meant that he was just more active at that point, and then was able to use that time to then transition with Zeta, who also I think played a really underratedly good game. Right. I think Zeta had a decent matchup as well, and I think that's one of the biggest differences between the two teams is their jungle support play together. I don't think that RIZE actually did much as a duo in that sense, whereas on the other side, Broden kind of were more willing to actually make support and jungle plays together, and that synergy is something that does matter when you get higher up on the leaderboards.
For sure. I mean, that's the thing. RIZE, they've been playing together for quite a long time, so the synergy I would like to say is for sure there. But it felt like they were a bit just confused this game. I mean, it all came down to that one moment. The second time they tried to catch out Yukira on the bot lane, right? That moment where the Orianna managed, like, you know, if we had replays for tonight, these would be the ones I would happily show you, where they just walk away because RIZE they start going down, then they start going up, and then they go down. They just didn't know who to focus, and because of that, Broden friends were able to escape out of it, which is just a bit crazy, I gotta say. So we'll have to see what RIZE will do with their kind of mental in this little break, because we have been at a quite lengthy break, and we'll hopefully get into this draft quite soon. But RIZE, they're a team that they've been known to bounce back. They'll happily drop one game and come back in the next two. And as I mentioned before we throw in the break, it's not the end for either of these teams if they end up losing, because two teams will promote to Div 1. Tonight's winner secures one of those Div 1 spots, and tomorrow's winner tomorrow is 200 Bandits, and they will play against tonight's loser, and the winner of that game will also promote. So it's not the end of all days if you lose tonight, because you still have one last opportunity to promote.
Absolutely. And so we will have to see which of these teams ends up playing against 200 Bandits tomorrow, which I'm excited to watch. I will definitely stick around to watch that tomorrow after I am able to do so. It's going to be an exciting series either way. I think both these teams have the potential to win that series. It'll be a close one, I feel. Like, all three teams are not particularly... I think they're all decent teams. So it'll be a tough matchup, and it's definitely, if you do want a little bit more of that Four Nations content after you finish up tonight, then, you know, you can always make yourself a nice little meal and sit down and watch that one tomorrow. So look forward to it. It'll be good.
Yeah, Sunday. Get yourself the, Sunday roast or whatever, and have a nice relaxing Sunday and watch it.
Day of rest, you know?
Who needs rest though when you can watch?
Oh, there's nothing better than sitting down with the fire next to you, warming you gradually as you sit and watch wonderful faces like W King, and your boy.
This guy.
Like, what else could you
I
want to
got my
do on
side.
a Sunday night? He said, I'm not going to be here, but that's besides the point.
I won't be
Um,
there either. But it's fine. We'll be in
amazing.
the chat.
There'll be
But going
some
back to
pretty
this
people.
game,
There'll be some beautiful people. It'll be fine. It'll be alright. It'll be alright.
do you think with the draft about starting, is there any champions last game that stood out enough that you think might be banned away to this one? Like, do you think the Viego is something that would be potentially banned? I mean, we actually saw a lot of Porb's junglers being banned away, right? There was the Wukong, there was the Karthus, and then there was one more that I'll remember in a second. Right now is Corki. Do you think they're going to swap out like a Wukong for a Viego? Was Viego a big issue this one?
I think it's a difficult one. I don't think they will, because I think that the tools innately that Viego has in order to
Mhm.
snowball are lesser than the other champions that were currently banned. I think it's one of those cases of the lesser of two evils. I actually think the champion you need to watch the most for is actually Ezreal,
Okay.
because we know for a fact that both AD carries now play it to a reasonable degree. We know that Ashe is the only other pick, so there's a possibility of Ashe being banned away, and then you get an Ezreal first pick, depending on who is on blue side. Do we have confirmation on who's on blue side this game?
Rise
Is
will
it
be on blue side again.
Rise will be on blue side again? Again, okay, that does help. There's a chance they might look to just take the Ezreal early themselves, just to deny it, but it also could get banned away and create a really difficult drafting scenario. So it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think both these AD carries can play each other's champions for sure.
Mm.
But this Ezreal is just given a great opportunity to get ahead early game, right? That 2v2 we saw kind of sealed the whole deal in this game. It kind of led up to every event because they got it. Not only did they get a first blood, crashed a wave, got a turret plate and everything, and they were already even ahead in farm. So like all those events together really just kind of got the ball rolling for them. And you gotta say, like, that's probably why Spark was so ahead. I mean, and as the game continued, that one mid-game team fight where Spark was just on 100 HP the entire time was absolutely insanity. This is what I like to see from Ezreals when they play. Not just playing so close to everything. And it was just absolutely fantastic. And with that, looks like we are in draft right away. And it looks like we're in a client draft as well. So we're going back to the old school way of doing things. I like this. This was reminding me of back in my good old new old days.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. I just noticed, by the way, I love the fact that you got the blue lighting. I've got the pinky red, so we've got the two sides perfectly covered. It's excellent.
I got this.
Yeah, it was tactical. It was planned. It's planned.
Intentional, if anything.
Oh yeah, of course, of course, of course, of course. But yeah, no. As we go into those bans, we are going to see the same two come out. It's going to be that Karthus and the uh, Wukong both gone to the table immediately. The Gwen is also banned. I think that was banned in. Was that
Corki
second
was
rotation?
banned out. Yeah, second rotation. Actually, Gwen was banned out by broad second rotation last
Ah,
game.
okay, okay,
So,
okay, okay. That's
yeah.
what it was. Yeah, yeah. So Corki open. That's the big change up. Apart from that, it's very, very similar. Pick ban so far. I mean, it makes sense. There's not much reason to change it. This is a nice little change up though. Getting themselves that Maokai
Mm,
early that was denied last time round because it was picked away on R4, I believe, if my
yeah.
memory is correct. Which was a good move from Broad and Friends, but they're not going to be allowed to repeat it again.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we've seen Rides do before. They like having this Maokai, and they're not scared to first pick it because it's just something that's I like. I don't know. Is the champion insanely OP? No. But like, is it just great? Yes. Like, it just seems like it's just winning every game it's in. So how OP is this champion? I really don't know. And especially in situations where you're happy to handshake Ashe or Ezreal, you don't need to necessarily first pick either one. And it looks like that might be the situation. Well, not be the situation as these. Well, it looks like Broad and Friends are hovering a few other AD carries here for a bit of fun, and Viego's already been locked in.
The fun thing we haven't addressed is because I know it's been nerfed significantly over time, is that there is still people that do play things like Ashe support, which can still be semi-relevant. Obviously, as I say, the champion is butchered into the ground in that role, so it's not played anywhere near as often, but instead we'll see the Jinx and then we'll see the Xin Zhao come through. This is something we discussed earlier as well. Very strong jungler, very consistent, very powerful and proactive early. So definitely something that I'm looking forward to seeing. And with something like a Maokai that guarantees your lockdown, it can snowball very aggressively and easily through that top side.
Definitely. I mean, Jinx here. Interesting, definitely though, considering that Ashe and Israel both open. Like nothing's exactly changed per se here, besides the Maokai being locked in. So very excited to see how Spark plays on that. And this time we'll see DDD on the Ezreal instead. Definitely a champion they can play nicely. And when you have a champion like Maokai who can already be your main engage, you don't need Ashe to be that kind of engage tool. You can happily follow through with Ezreal. And Xin Zhao fights nicely around a Maokai too, because with the CC that they both have, the knockups that they bring and stuff, definitely brings a little bit of good skirmishing. as it looks like we'll get QQR on Orianna again. They look great on it before, so why not pick it a second time? Makes sense.
Yeah, nothing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Only thing to
Mhm.
worry about was those side lane shenanigans that happened a little bit, which was the one grey sky, shall we say, for the side of Broad and Friends was those catches in the side lane. But apart from that, they were doing okay for the rest of the game. Interesting to note when you do pick things like this Ezreal is now which side the Xin will elect to play towards, because they're in a weird situation where playing bot side isn't great unless they get certain
Mhm.
support matchups. But then, like, do you want to play top side unless you're snowballing yourself? I guess it's fine if you want to do it for that, but otherwise it's a bit awkward. I think, realistically speaking, I do kind of prefer the. I think I prefer red side, but both comps is perfectly fine. They're both playable. There's no issues.
Yeah.
Only thing is, both teams don't have that particularly amazing go button just yet. Maokai arguably the best one though.
Interesting to see how Broad and Friends are still batting out these top laners, even though Maokai has been picked by RIZE.
Mm.
Yes, Maokai can go into support. It's been that Scooby-Dooby-Doo could play, but I've only ever seen Shmion play it so far. So we'll have to see, you know, they kind of, with these picks, might just be trying to force the Maokai into top to match against the Ornn. They don't want any champions that can necessarily annoy the Ornn through any kind of level of scaling, so...
It's
If,
a
you know,
Cho'Gath angle. Don't worry about it.
Cho'Gath, you did call out the Cho'Gath before. It's something I could see Shmion playing
It
too.
is a Cho'Gath angle, unironically. It's not terrible. Yeah, maybe not.
Instead, Lux
I think
being
it's still fine.
offered. Ooh, what are we gonna get here? Lux. That's gonna be Xiaomei's Lux here. Definitely a mid laner they've played. I didn't get to watch the game fully. Last time I believe they played it was in the best of 5 series against Emrys in the finals of Did 2. Did not net them a win. If I remember correctly, but was a interesting pick. I mean, when was the last time you saw a Lux mid lane?
Probably my solo queue running me down would be my assumption, but it's been a little while, I must confess. I'm sure the champion does the same thing it's always done, which is just ER waves as soon as he hits level 6 and just be untradeable. So if you want a champion that you are not gonna like int on and just be like existing in games, the champion is fine for that.
Right.
It does create a difficult scenario though with the potential of mega scaling. As their ability to tank shred is not amazing on this blue side now, especially from the magic damage components, which means you can get a lot more armor stacking. You can go things like Frozen Heart to deal with Xin Zhao, and just get essentially one MR item that realistically the Ornn is going to build anyway, because obviously the Sunfire based MR item is incredibly good for all tanks for wave clear, so I'll buy that and then just go HP armor stacking and be fine.
Right.
And blue side can't really kill him, so that's something to note. Same issue can now occur with Rel as well, and her ability to shield break against a double shield comp is definitely relevant too. So overall, I'm preferring the Rod and Friends frontline situation, as I don't think Ornn ever dies after like 25 minutes, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to see what kind of DPS they can get out with the Xin Zhao and the Ezreal here, but that's just double AD shred against a very tanky Ornn, and even with the enchanting coming through from Karma, we'll have to see if that's enough. But I'm curious, I'm keen. I mean, Ornn might be very tanky, but necessarily won't carry the game through all, but we have seen a very, very good, well-played game from Orianna on QQR, and Spark on Jinx. If anything, it's a very squishy team from the side of RIZE, so that's a great opportunity for Jinx to just play through. So yeah, definitely both sides have a great opportunity here. But you're favoring more towards than the Broad and Friends roster then, yeah?
Yeah, I'd prefer red side of the two if I had to.
Okay.
The best advantage you have is you have your push from Karma Ezreal. But what worries me is Karma is one of those champions that while she can have good utility in the later stages, she does not scale amazingly. And I
Right.
sometimes feel when I watch Karma players more recently that the amount of advantage you get for in the early game, let's say up to like level 9-ish, at the end, at maximum, I don't think the amount of advantage you get nowadays on that champion is necessarily enough for it to warrant the pick being good. In comparison to something like a Zyra that you could pick and do the same kind of thing and still have more relevancy later in terms of zoning control and other potential things with Rylai's slow, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that Karma just kind of hits a wall where she becomes like a Mantra Q shield bot, Mantra shield bot, and doesn't really do as much. So I think what we'll end up seeing is pushing lane from the bottom side that doesn't really transition into enough. But that is a theory, a game theory related to League of Legends that could be wrong.
Yeah.
So we will find out if I'm right or not.
There's definitely a lot of poke coming out from RIZE though in total, right? You have Lux, you have Ezreal, you have Karma. That's really it. But like, it's enough poke that is Ornn gonna be able to tank it all up? Is this guy big enough to absorb all these shots? Because also a lot of this damage coming from Karma and Lux can hit on multiple people. And I think you're gonna have to be a bit careful if you're on the side of Broad and Friends, because if you get hit by the wrong thing, if you get hit by a Lux binding, for example, there's potential for enough follow-up, just quick burst damage coming through from RIZE to take out this entire squad. So, well, not entire squad, but like the one person they pick. So, a bit more of a pick-sided comp, I would say, for the side of RIZE, and they'll have to see how they play around it. Because last game it was very scrappy, a lot of scrappy fights around the jungle. I don't imagine we'll get big team fights this game. I think these teams are too squishy to team fight. They're gonna kill one, it'll just be an instant wipe. So whichever team can play vision better here, and whichever team can kind of set up for fights first, is what I would think will go ahead. But I gotta agree with you that Broad and Friends, they seem to have a bit of an easier style and way of doing it. And if everything goes wrong, or if they even start winning a fight, they have a jinx. Just get excited and play through the fights. So, yeah.
Yep. I was just saying, if we're talking about getting the first kill in a fight to essentially snowball through fights, I think those tend to then come down to who has the best engage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who is it that has the go button? And if you're looking at go buttons, I think the Ornn versus Maokai debate is interesting, but I do think the Ornn go button is slightly better. And especially when you have a Rel as well, right? It's a double engage versus a single. So in that regard, I think again it's favorable to the red side. But it's not unplayable. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like this game is over, dodge it, don't bother, give them the win. No, it's not like that. You know, you can still win this out. Like there are a set amount of avenues you can follow that can give you enough advantage for it not to matter.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is that you are walking a very thin line. It's a bit of a tightrope, and if you do make any substantial mistakes, then that avenue for advantage just gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah, sounds about right. And that's what we'll find out. We're gonna get into this game very, very closely, and I'm excited for it because when you have a team that takes a win like that, it can mean lots. Like it's like RIZE isn't the team that's just gonna give up. I feel like they're gonna come out even stronger, and that's gonna go with two ways. I don't think it's gonna be a slow burn game. I feel like either RIZE is gonna come out fighting, get what they need to win condition this game, and take over, or they're gonna step up too far, trying to force some kind of win con and then fall behind behind it. That's what I'm thinking. Unless they have a very great mental and will play this slow. So this is also a fantastic test for them to see. We were talking about Div 1 potential, right? They're gonna have to see if they can hold up to it. And with that, we will be getting into the game right away as we get to watch this game too of this best of 3 series.
Yeah, and what a game it will be. The deciding game perhaps for the promotion of BNF, or if we are going to go 2-3 games and RIZE is going to keep us here a little bit longer to see if they can make it through straight away. Obviously, nothing lost necessarily if you lose this game, but everything gained if you can win it. Promotion straight away is a lot better than having to spend your Sunday practicing and preparing as opposed to celebrating. So
Yep.
I certainly would prefer to be celebrating over playing out another best of 3 series if I can, but maybe that's just me.
I gotta agree with you on that one.
Oh, does he get it? No, poor. He's not got enough attack speed. Poor lad. We're going to see the invade. They're going to get vision control, and at least they're going to be able to track Pulp this time around. So we're going to be able to see how much Ryan Gosling can utilize that extra bit of knowledge and information here for his pathing.
For sure. I mean, Pope will even drop a little ward on their own buff as they try to... You know what? I like this. They know that they're warded there, and they might even consider starting on the other side of the map just because, like, sure, they know he's not there, so they know where he will be, but it's nicer to do that than to show on vision and, like, guarantee where you are, so... Pope starting walls there does give him, like, a slight opportunity to be a bit more creative in their clear. And interesting enough, Ryan Gosling is doing the exact same on the opposite side of the map, so... Seems that both games so far, junglers have started on the exact same camp, just opposite sides.
Yeah, both of them obviously skipping that first buff as well for their first buff on their very initial clear. Both of them starting instead doing this Wolf, Grom, Blue, probably then pathing over to the Raptors, Red Krugs, and then moving on up. So take away their crabs. It does mean that they're going to be ending up on different sides of the map, and it's this time around that the junglers playing for the opposite sides they did last game. So
yep.
Worth noting. And it does mean that obviously Ryan Gosling electing to play towards this strong side Ezreal Karma bot lane that will be able to get that push prio, assuming it's played in the way that I'm expecting it to be.
Yeah, let's see how these. I mean, last game we saw these bot lanes being very, very stale. As we're getting trades already quite aggressively into this mid lane. GDR just having slightly more of a mana pool to play with. And Shmion will be very, like, a lot more comfortable in this top lane now that they're on their Maokai, which they're definitely more comfortable, and it's like their signature pick so far. I mean, anyone from the Div 2 scene watching, they know Shmion's Maokai. And if anyone's, you know, been scouting RIZE, they'll have to have their picks prepared for what happens in this situation. So we'll see how Gov does on the Orin, as they are already doing a good job of keeping Shmion quite low, as this guy has just gobbled down all of their biscuits and pots.
Yeah, that brittle and that percentage max health damage that comes through because of it, as well as the little bit of CC increasing that comes through as well. It's definitely tough for people into this, or especially tanks. He's known for being the should we say the all-rounder of tanks, perhaps might be the best term, instead of having to do a 15-second monologue on it. As we also see training here on the bot side, nice from DDD.
Yeah, DDD running around nicely with the move speed given to them from the Karma, and they will get Zeta low, and that's really it. But it's going to be interesting because we see Ryan Gosling on this side, the clear from Pope being a lot faster, and they will get the, I mean, we can see them, they've taken down the Scuttle Crab and are already recalling before Ryan Gosling's even started it, so we'll have to see how Pope can use this tempo to their advantage. And potentially maybe see Ryan Gosling move down into bot lane here if they want to put some kind of pressure. Scooby-Dooby-Doo stepping up nice aggressively. We'll get some continued chunk onto Zeta, but looks like that Ryan Gosling will just recall out as well. Or not. He's running around somewhere.
Yeah, it looks like he's running back to his wolf camp, but the thing is that, yeah, they've only just respawned now, so he's going to do that instead. Porp going to just shadow hit just in case. Oh, engage.
In from Zeta, looking to catch out Scooby-Dooby-Doo, but with a nice flash react from them, we'll just trade flash for flash there. But I love seeing these kind of duos play, where Pope is just on the edge of vision. They know exactly how far back they can play, and the second that vision is broken, that's when Zeta flashes in. So it's nice to see these experienced players just knowing how far and how short they can step up. Meanwhile, Ryan Gosling sneaking up in the top lane. The stun coming through won't be enough there. Maybe as Gov is flash for flash, gets the knock-up with the empowered W. Meanwhile, bot side, DDD gets the solo kill onto the flashless Zeta. Scooby-Dooby-Doo getting the heal off as well. Uses that move speed to kite out Pope as here comes the tether. Pope will get stunned in this minion wave as DDD will try to get as much of a chunk down instead as he's putting his auto attacks onto Spark. And a very, very nicely played from RIZE. Get 2 kills as he dashes in with the shift. Gets another kill. Pope trying to trade back for one themselves, but just throws it instead as DDD picks up a unofficial triple kill 5 minutes into this game. What on earth?
I mean, we said that RIZE needed to find something to get back into it. It seems like Ezreal is what they needed to find. It's 3 kills over to the side of DBD. And now suddenly, RIZE are looking like they're in this one. They're not dead in the water just yet. They get themselves the kills, as said. They get a nice play on the top side as well. Jean-Marie is also surviving in the mid lane. Struggling a little bit, perhaps, but doing okay overall. And with the advantage accrued now onto this Ezreal and onto the... I hate Lux, I'm sorry. That's just... so frustrating.
I rolled my eyes as they did that.
it's like, oh, I just hate the fact that you can put her into a bad laning scenario and then she just goes, nah, but I'd ult. 30 seconds later, nah, but I'd ult. Anyway, it does end up using up the ulti, which means that maybe you can make the argument that enables these grubs, but even so, the gold advantage now in the side of RIZE. They found themselves that first chink in the armor, that first little turn of the wheel. Question is, can they keep it rolling?
Yeah, I mean, last game we saw Spark get the first blood and kill on Ezreal and looked very good out of it. This time, well, we're seeing a bit more than just a kill. It's a 3-0 Ezreal at about 6.5 minutes. So this guy has now recalled and spent all their gold. They have 800 lead over this Jinx as it is right now. We'll have to see how they play this out as this game continues, but it's definitely a situation where you know DDD can be comfortably left on their own in the 1v1, and Spark's the one in danger, so I'd like to see them play for more as here comes Scooby-Dooby-Doo, gets the tether onto them as Zeta is there to tank up anything, but Ryan Gosling on the side will look for the kill here. Spark just flashing out of that, has barrier available if they look for more, but it looks like they will just take a bit of a break there as the 3v3 won't break out into any kills.
3v3, yes. Nothing breaking out, sure. Spark does blow flash, though. And that
Yeah.
is always going to be relevant in these situations. Because it now means that if you ever leave this Jinx in that 1v1 isolated state, DDD can look to shift forwards, utilize that sheen and damage advantage, and potentially turn it into a solo killing scenario. So you've got to constantly have that in the back of your mind, especially with these grubs now spawning within that flash timer being down. It's an exploitation angle, and this is something that RIZE wasn't able to find as many of last game. Looks like they're trying to push them in this time around.
Chompers will be used to zone away for only a moment, as there's a huge wave here, and you know Spark wants it. DDD takes
Oh,
tower over
no.
here. We'll get 2 shots, nothing crazy, but drops them low enough. As Spark is just desperately farming any minion they can at the tower. DDD taking a 3rd tower shot here. So I can't imagine any kind of dive potential, even if they are this low. Ryan Gosling on the side, they're fighting over a Gromp as well, so lots of back and forth. However, Zaume is on the first move. QQR does have TP if any kind of dive is pulled, and you know it's just waiting to happen any second now. But they're just not quite there, as Pulp will get the stun onto DDD. Shift will come out, and I don't think these teams want it too bad, as there's a stun! DDD steps up a bit too far, will get a kill 1-for-1. Meanwhile, Ryan Gosling jumping into Zeta, will look for the second kill, as Pulp, last one standing, has taken over the Ezreal. Won't be able to get anything more out of that, and eventually RIZE are able to convert a 2-for-1 dive.
And unfortunately, Spark just doesn't get that barrier off in time. Ends up getting popped by DDD shifting forward. Wasn't expecting the aggressive play from the Ezreal, and it nets them a 1-for-1 trade there on the play. 4-1 now on this Ezreal pick. QQR in a very difficult position. But Ryan Gosling is the one who'll be running away this time instead. Oh,
Flash for flash coming out. Doesn't look like anything more will happen. Pulp can now return back to his blue.
flash for flash. I guess we take those. Both junglers now down that spell. As Gov pushing the top side. Nothing else looking to be the case, but we see again that AD carry position. The advantage. I'm just surprised that they're able to get that tower in. I think the 3 tower shots from DDD was a relevant mistake in the end. It did mean that they couldn't necessarily pressure the dive to the way they would have wanted to, with the risk of the Ezreal getting traded back. He does end up being traded back in the end. Hop, again, another play bot lane. He's alone. DDD has to shift.
Doobie-doobie-doo, recalling at the wrong time as 3 members from Broad and Friends run down DDD. They have the shift, but it's just not enough, and you have to feel a bit bad for Scooby-Dooby-Doo there, recalling, because they didn't know the entire Broad and Friends roster was there looking for a kill. But with that, they get a kill, very importantly, and Spark will pick up a plate as well, so it does mean that this Jinx is slightly back in the game. But Ezreal now having their Triforce, and liking this from Shmion, moving here as we see the bot lane from RIZE moving up to contest the second spawning of Grubs.
Yeah, they are going to end up swapping, as you say, for that grub spawn. I actually think, weirdly, the Maokai does have kill threat, unironically, in that lane, so you still have to be a bit respectful as the Jinx.
Yeah.
What is worth noting, though, is that Porp has actually taken quite a bit of pain from this play in the bottom side, as he's been sort of forced to cover his AD carry for like 3 waves. So slowly had a CS deficit accrue in the jungle position. Ryan Gosling is going in aggressively. This is so strange. Look at the Maokai flank from the TB.
From behind onto QQR. Zeta chunked very, very low, dashing onto DDD, looking for something, but will just be the fodder to distract them. Meanwhile, Shmion in everyone, very, very tanky here, won't be focused down. And they will give up a kill as a nice TP up from Shmion, followed by a TP down from Zaume, giving Spark absolutely nothing in this bot lane as they're desperately trying to get that plate, as it's only one they do manage to secure it just barely through the Grub's burn. So nicely played by Spark to secure that bit of extra gold. Meanwhile, DDD and Scooby-Dooby-Doo are there topside, and with that, RIZE are able to take 2 Grubs, but Broad and Friends do get that essential 4 count, meaning that they'll at least be able to spawn 1 Void Might per tower hit.
I'm not entirely sure how much I like the Lux teleport, just because I don't think it really stopped much, as you get the plate anyway, and I don't know if they would have got 2. Maybe they would have done. Maybe it is a denial of 1. But anyway, they get the 4 Grubs crucially, and even though they do lose 1 member, it's not the worst thing in the world. Advantage obviously going over to RIZE, but depending on how well this 4 Grub situation can be utilized. BNF are not unhappy, given the fact they are supposedly down 5 kills right now. The gold difference is only 1k. So they've done quite a good job of keeping themselves in the game, at least to an extent. But most of that gold advantage still being on the bot side.
QQR forced to flash out as a nice auto attack timing from Ryan Gosling gets the knocked up there. And now with Dragon on the map, Pope has started this off, so we'll have to see if Brood and Friends can opt in to take away this objective. As it's nothing I'd imagine RIZE would want to give it up. They'll have
Look
to
at
see
the
if
top
they can get
laners
it.
though. Look at the top laners. Look at the speed difference between the two. Shmion doesn't have the teleport, so would have to walk down. It's going to be a numbers disadvantage play if they want to contest it. And I think RIZE are just sort of forced to give this one up now, due to that faster rotation from the Ornn.
Definitely. I mean, it's good positioning there from Golv, and even that, they had TP available, so even if Shmion stayed topside, Golv could easily TP up to match that. So very, very nicely played from Broad and Friends there to pick up that objective, and to, like, even though they're behind this 1k gold, it doesn't feel like that. I mean, they're 7-2, right? This is a 5-kill difference and only 1.5k gold. Sure, the mass is there, but it doesn't feel right. STD does a great job of canceling Spark's recall right there, very annoyingly.
It feels like
yeah.
It feels like the biggest difference between the two teams is when they're behind, how well they're utilizing the timers. So at least BNF are still behind. They are still currently losing this game. That is not a lie. However, that play showed they were able to punish the double teleport usage earlier, using their rotational speed to get themselves more members to the play. They were able to utilize the fact that DDD didn't have the flash available to collapse on him earlier and get themselves that extra kill. They're playing intelligently despite being behind, and I think what I want to see more from RIZE now, remember they are the team ahead, I want them to start abusing those timers. QQR has no flash right now. I want people to go there and punish the fact there is no flash on this Orianna, get a kill off of that and turn that into an objective. This Herald is spawning very soon. Let's see them be proactive here.
Yeah, it's definitely this is the kind of things that will separate a Div 2 to Div 1 team. Capitalizing off summers, capitalizing off like map movements and everything here, and it's a big thing I've seen a lot on Div 2 with champions and junglers especially, burning flashes from these immobile carries like Jinx or like Orianna, but then just not repeat ganking and pressuring it the second time to get a kill. So we'll have to see what they do as DDD is playing very aggressively, flashes over Zeta's stun, looking for Spark. Double TP coming from each top laner as DDD is trying to fight this through, but Spark just has more damage and will get the kill themselves as they survive on no health at all. Scooby-Dooby-Doo on the run, but cannot get away from the rest of Broad and Friends. Shmion trying to do what they can, but it will just have to turn back themselves. Lux ultimate hitting no one, getting killed in return as they could have just ran away. And in an instant, RIZE just collapsed, giving over 4 kills for none to the side of Broad and Friends.
And it's what we talked about earlier as well with the usage and the punishing. A little bit too far does DDD go and ends up getting TP'd on behind. The TP is so much faster from the side of BNF. I'm not sure on the reasoning. I would need to see it back in terms of the macros to whether they were already hitting wave or if there was timing or what the case was. But the fast teleport does end up mattering. It means the collapse comes through and the CC comes through much quicker. And the punish from the entirety of this BNF roster. They get themselves back into the game. They're the team that are now ahead in gold despite being down a kill.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that right there as they're looking to instantly be aggressive onto Spark, but here comes the TP play from QQR as well. Ryan Gosling on the run will have the flash available since they weren't even in that last fight, as they did manage to drop Spark low, and it looks like Ryan Gosling was able to pick up the Herald while everything was going on, so RIZE didn't come out of that fight with absolutely nothing, but we'll have to see what they can do with this Herald and hopefully break open a tower somewhere to get some kind of movement on this map.
Absolutely, you're right. You need to give credit where credit is due. They do pick up that Herald. It's obviously at the extent of a play that they're not happy about, but it's a good neutral objective. It's a good thing to see. The question now is how can they utilize, again, these timers. Both TPs now down for BNF. Advantage TP is there for Xiaomei. Can they utilize this to get a macro advantage and then use that to push this Herald advantage further? Give them that gold, maybe get some kills or some jungle camps and deny some vision. Utilize these advantages to accrue faster and gradual increasing of a gold advantage for themselves. It's the one thing this team has lacked the most so far, as they are going to drop the Herald here in the mid lane trying to get that turret, but it is partially defended. The question is whether they'll get the whole thing or not.
Charge will go off, but I don't think there's quite enough damage, so they'll just take the chunk at this point. It was probably just a moment where they saw, hey, let's drop this Herald to at least get it off the map. Something I might have liked to have seen used a bit later, especially with Dragon spawning in 30 seconds, it can be nice to drop a Herald in a side lane to get some kind of pressure in a lane. to force one to move there while you play for the objective. So instead, it will just get a nice significant chunk of this mid lane tower that maybe they can convert into a tower. I mean, anything looking like a first tower too, as we're 17 minutes in and no towers have been taken down yet. So that first tower reward, I believe, should still be on the map, and I'm sure RIZE would love to have it.
Yeah, it definitely would have been nice to turn that into the first tower. Maybe that's the reason we've now got Scooby-Dooby-Doo and Ryan Gosling hovering here. Potentially they can see this midway push in. We actually have Shmion moving as well. They could look for a play here on Spark to kill this AD carry. No flash, remember, on the Jinx.
Blast Cone available for Ryan Gosling. This is an empowered one too. However, nicely tanked by Zeta means that no CC will directly land as the ultimate from Zaume will hit onto one, but they will get bursted down in one shot as Broad and Friends get their first kill, second kill even. Double for QQR. Spark now excited on the side will get a kill themselves with the fully stacked lethal tempo. Scooby-Dooby-Doo on the run from Pulp, but won't be able to get anything else as they did get one tower mid. They got a tower at bot lane, but at what cost as Broad and Friends get another 4-for-0 trades on kills, and at this point they can get these towers back themselves, picking up a dragon as well. This is looking very, very good for all you Broad and Friends fans out there.
Yeah, it's not exactly ideal. I like the idea of the play, but they just can't find their way onto the Jinx, and as soon as the play falls apart, they're just going to get blown up on the counter. The turnaround was wonderful from the side of BNF. RIZE did a decent job. I like what they're going for. It just feels like they haven't quite clicked on the play they need to make and the way to execute it. They get 2 turrets, which is a nice little bit of consolation, shall we say, but they're going to lose the tower in bot lane anyway, and the gold is going to slowly start to push further as DDD now just up in no man's land.
DDD trying to dash away from that one and will be able to get out thanks to the movement speed from Karma, but Zeta says no as they flash in with the Magnet Storm looking for something. Ryan Gosling dashing onto the low pulp as maybe Zeta stepped up a bit too far, making this a 1-for-1 as QQR was able to pick up DDD on the side. Zaume now flashing out of this one as the stun will come through onto QQR, but QQR does not die. Pulp getting one ultimate reset there, gets one, gets the second one here as now they're trading their attention onto Shmion. And it's so much fun getting to watch champions like the Viego and the Jinx right here. Reset after reset. So tanky, so much tempo. Picking up, again, a 4-for-0 ace. Oh no, they did get one kill on the side this time. There. So RIZE did come back, but... Ooh, hello. Rocket flying down.
You know what? I feel like in their defense, I think RIZE played that quite well. It was a good collapse. The Zeta engage looked a little bit unique on the idea of it. It didn't quite line up properly, but the moment you get one reset against this RIZE team from the side of BNF, they just steamroll through teams because the Spark Jinx will get excited. Viego gets the heal and the fresh set of abilities off cooldown, then resets again. It's just they need one. They only need one, and the fight just goes from looking very, very good to slightly dire, and that's just an unfortunate situation. When you're this behind, a single mistake will end up getting punished even when you don't feel like it's fair.
For sure. I mean, when looking at these stats, right? The Magi is picked up for the second game in the row by QQR. They had a fully stacked Dark Seal, so a very nice Magi is picked up there. 2 items for the Viego. No Collector this time, and no Kraken Slayer, so they are going for the Sundered Sky. Bit differently. Jinx, i.e. Yontal Arrows as well, probably completed and fully stacked on the crit there, so they just have huge opportunities of damage. And we're not even mentioning the Ornn yet. Ornn items still levels away from getting that, which will just make Broad and Friends scale even harder, as they are now at a comfortable about just 4k gold, no, 6k gold lead. Can't do my maths today. But it's looking great. I mean, we'll have to see. But you know what? It's not over yet because there's still 2 dragons. RIZE has been doing an excellent job of getting early dragons, and it will delay the game a bit. So we'll have to see what Broad and Friends do to try and close this game.
Yeah. The other thing that's worth noting as well is their ability to collapse is still wonderful. Spark without this mid turret does have to play extremely safely. Ryan Gosling?
Ryan Gosling looking for pull, forced to use the Arbreaker to get out of there. Does get a nice escape, and that is a very low jungler, so we'll have to see what they decide to do here to try and make a play.
Yeah, the one unfortunate thing is that the Honey Fruit was up, so it does get a decent shield.
Ooh, no Blast Cone being used. Ryan Gosling moved from one target to the other. Instead, they'll take down Zeta. Magnet Storm being used, keeping them alive, and very, very tankly. Spark not having a reset yet, but I spoke too soon, as here comes the Governor from downtown. picking up a double kill and another kill going over as well as Ryan Gosling is on the run towards the wrong side of the map, taking down whatever little minions and gold they can get. Shmion is on the bot side, so they will get some kind of tower threat, but instead, Baron goes over to Rotten Friends.
Yeah, it just feels like the story of this game has been RIZE makes a play that looks like it can be okay, and then BNF just turns it around and get a ton of advantage. You get a little bit, and we're going to take absolutely everything else. It's almost like getting treats with your brother, you know? Your mum's going to try and separate it evenly, and then she's going to turn her back, and he's going to take the majority of it away. It's just a little bit unfortunate here for the side of RIZE.
Definitely. Now, we'll see Broad and Friends all taking the recall here. Dragon spawning about 40 seconds, and Shmion on the run as well. Should be able to reset before this dragon spawns, but does have the TP available. As we do see Gov having upgraded the first item here for Pulp, having a bit of a nice stat there. 18 stacks for this 5-0 Orianna. But the one worry you have, if you are Broad and Friends, is with all these gold bounties you have. If you make a mistake here, if you get caught out, if you play a bad team fight, that is so much potential gold to go into the pocket for these RIZE players. So Broad and Friends, not like they're in a situation to where they might get caught out, but if they make any mistakes here, they can definitely get punished for it.
Absolutely. They do have champions that can get caught. It's not like they're immune to it. And remember, a lot of this gold being on essentially your 3 carry core of the Viego, the Orianna, and the Jinx means that if one of these 2 reset champions dies, their ability to snowball through fights just falls off drastically. The Orianna is still going to be the most consistent of them, but the other 2 can get blown up.
Fight coming out as Ryan Gosling is the target here. Will get turned down bit by bit. It looks like Pulp might die first, but never mind. Instant triple kills going over for Broad and Friends as Pulp drops low. But Spark is there to reset and get everything Broad and Friends might want as they get 4 kills. And Shmion on the side desperately trying to do whatever they can to try and hold this game together. But with the Baron, with this Jinx who's gotten how many get excited resets right here, looking for more as Shmion's just desperately going to try and hold this. But it doesn't look like anything RIZE can do here. Scooby-Doo up in 4 seconds. 1 tower going down as now they'll put the attention on Shmion. Shmion dodging away, but will get taken down. Scooby-Doo alive, but a flash from Pope will take down the 1 kill. And with that, Broad and Friends will dive the base, looking for more kills. A Spark even gets more. And Broad and Friends take the win.
26-10, it ends up being a resounding win for BNF, but they did have to sweat for it a little bit. The early game was not as clean, but they managed to turn it all around in the end of things.
Gotcha.
Honestly, I was worried.
For who?
For the viewers. No, I don't know. It looked a little bit rough for a while. I thought that RIZE had this one in the bag, but they ended up not being able to convert to the level they needed to with the advantages they were given, and unfortunately, they got punished. They just weren't able to snowball effectively, and if you can't snowball effectively at this level, then you're not going to be able to win games against these teams that can defend so effectively.
Yeah, I mean, this was the night for RIZE to really learn what kind of tier they're expected to play against in Div 1, and especially in a game like this where your AD carry gets 3-0. They were so far ahead, but they just weren't able to convert that to a win, which is something that you would expect in a Div 1 standard of a team when you get that lead to bring in the win. But unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough, and this does mean that Broad and Friends will keep their Div 1 spot as they will stay up there. Meanwhile, so yes, congrats to Broad and Friends for being the first team in these promotion series to stay in the Div 1.
Shout out to the Pulp Patrol, the boys.
Pulp Patrol. I think I played against Pulp back in the day in my university days, so it's a name I definitely remember from the Cabbage Family days too. Definitely good times. But now that RIZE lost, tomorrow they'll play against 200 Bandits, which is a rematch because these teams have played a best of 3 before. Controversial, if anything, because of just a few issues. Brought in 200 Bandits had no bans 1 to 3 in every single game, just for you recollect to know. So this time 200 Bandits will have full access to their first 3 bans to play against RIZE. So we'll have to see how they can utilize this to play against this, as that was definitely a very exciting game to watch. And tomorrow, it's RIZE versus 200 Bandits again. 2 Div 2 teams, meaning that one Div 2 team has a guaranteed spot in Div 1 Very exciting. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes, and it will start at the same time as today. Oh yeah. Recollect, thank you so much for joining tonight, man. It was nice to have you on stream. Thanks for taking the time out and just not even well, for you, spontaneously joining for and everything. So yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. Thanks so much for joining, dude.
But yeah, I just got a call like 2 hours before. Like, hey, yeah, are you? Yeah, by the way, I'm looking forward to working with you. I'm working tonight. Okay, sick. Let me just get home real quick. It was a banger opportunity. But I'm always happy to work for the Four Nations guys. Thanks for the opportunity. It's been a little while, so I appreciate the opportunity. It's always fun. Shout out to CC on the broadcasting rights. Shout out to Dubby, the Dubussy, the big dub, for giving us a wonderful performance this evening, in which you got to hear a lovely voice for this evening, and we are always thankful to have opportunities to talk to all of you guys. So hope you've all had a wonderful evening, and if you have, feel free to follow this lovely little Twitch channel for tomorrow's matches tomorrow, so you know when to be notified once you've cooked your dinner.
Yes,
We'll love to see you
exactly
again.
that. Tomorrow will be a hype game for sure. I won't be on broadcast, but I'll definitely be watching because it's Tutor Bandits versus Rise.
Yeah, we'll have a watch party.
If you
Don't
know
worry.
the Four Nations, if you know Div 2, that game is hype. It's gonna be sick, and I'm all for it. So we'll see you guys then. Again, thank you everyone for joining. It's been a great time being here tonight, and wishing you guys a good rest of your Saturday evening. See you guys tomorrow.